The desert of Zathra was quiet, yet charged with an energy that made the air shimmer. The twin moons hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the sand. For millennia, the ancient machine had stood silent, unyielding, and unclaimed. For millennia, empires had tried and failed, and now, at last, it was awake. Evelyn Maris stood before the massive black walls, her team around her, hearts pounding in anticipation. She had spent days listening, observing, and learning the rhythms of the machine. Every shift of a panel, every glow of a symbol, every subtle vibration had taught her something. She knew what the machine was capable of. She knew what it wanted, and she knew she had the voice it had been waiting for. Speaking the command, Evelyn took a deep breath. Her voice was calm, steady, and certain. She spoke slowly, carefully choosing each word, each tone, each pause. I ask you to awaken fully. I am here to guide you. I will speak for the galaxy, and I ask you to listen. The ground beneath the desert trembled faintly. Panels on the machine moved in intricate patterns, revealing inner chambers that stretched into the sky. Light poured from cracks and openings, forming rivers of glowing energy that lit up the desert as though a new sun had risen. The hum that had begun faintly days before now grew into a deep, resonant roar, felt in the chest as much as heard by the ear. The air vibrated with energy, and every living being on Zathra, human and alien alike, paused in awe and fear. For the first time in the galaxy's history, the ancient machine had obeyed. The power revealed. The humans watched as doors taller than mountains opened one by one. Inside, massive chambers pulsed with light, strange machinery spinning with energy beyond comprehension. Towers of energy stretched into the sky, connecting to the stars themselves, as if the machine was aware of the entire galaxy and its history. Ships hovering in orbit trembled. Aliens gasped, whispered, and in some cases retreated in fear. The Yoran generals gritted their teeth, realizing that all their weapons and threats had been useless. The frail scientists, who had spent decades sending code into the machine, looked on in amazement. The Cathari Queen's antennae twitched nervously as she observed the human who had unlocked the impossible. The machine did not attack. It did not destroy. It simply awaited direction, recognizing that the human before it was its rightful guide. Humanity's voice. Evelyn did not panic. She did not try to use the machine for personal power. Instead, she spoke carefully, calmly, asking the machine to show its functions, its abilities, and its intentions. Symbols on the walls shifted in response, forming shapes that told stories of stars, of galaxies, of civilizations that had risen and fallen long before any current empire existed. It was knowledge beyond imagination. Maps of star systems, engines capable of bending gravity, power sources able to energize entire worlds, all lay within the machine, ready for guidance. Her team recorded everything, every glowing symbol, every vibration, every pattern of light. They understood that this was not a weapon to be feared. It was a legacy of the first ones, a civilization so ancient that it had left this machine as a gift, waiting for those it had chosen to guide it. And it had chosen humans. The alien realization, alien empires were forced to reckon with the truth. They had come to Zathra with arrogance, with pride, believing themselves the masters of the galaxy. They had offered prayers, weapons, and energy to the machine, and they had been ignored. Now they watched as a human spoke, and the machine obeyed. It moved, it opened, it revealed powers that no species had ever imagined, and it recognized no one else. Whispers spread among the fleets. It obeys only them. Only a human can guide it. We were fools to think we could control it. For centuries, the galaxy had been convinced of its own superiority, and now, for the first time, it was clear. Humans were different. Humans were the heirs of something greater than any empire, greater than any weapon, greater than any code. Guiding the machine, Evelyn did not stop with awakening the machine. She guided it carefully, exploring its functions. She asked it to stabilize energy patterns, to reveal star maps, to analyze systems that had long been hidden. Every command was precise, measured, and thoughtful. The machine responded immediately, doors moving, lights shifting, symbols glowing. It showed the humans how to access its vast stores of knowledge. It revealed blueprints of ships, structures, and technology capable of transforming entire planets. Her team worked alongside her, translating, recording, and learning. Aliens watched with awe, realizing that they had been given a glimpse of something far beyond their reach. The humans were not using the machine to dominate. They were using it to understand, to explore, and to protect. A new galactic order news spread quickly across the galaxy. Ships returned to home systems, carrying reports of what had happened on Zathra. Entire civilizations were stunned. Humans, once underestimated, were now at the center of an event that would shape the galaxy for centuries. The Yoran, who had relied on strength, realized they had been humbled. The Frel, who had relied on intellect, realized they had been outmatched. The Cathari, who had relied on patience and energy, realized that none of their methods could replace the human voice that had awakened the ancient machine. For the first time in history, humans were not just another species. They were the inheritors of an ancient legacy, a species recognized by powers older than the stars themselves. Legacy and responsibility, Evelyn understood the weight of what had happened. The machine was powerful beyond imagination, capable of shaping worlds and star systems. With that power came responsibility. She spoke to her team. "We cannot use this for war. We cannot use it for pride. This is a gift, a legacy left for us. We must honor it." Together they set rules. They would study the machine. They would share knowledge carefully. They would guide it with wisdom, not with force. The machine responded to them as if understanding their intentions. Panels shifted, corridors opened, and symbols glowed brighter. It was alive in a way that no one had seen before, but it was safe, guided by those who had awakened it with respect and understanding. The future of humanity. The alien empires watched as humans began to explore the ancient machine's vast capabilities. Ships designed long ago by civilizations that no longer existed were rebuilt. Energy systems capable of powering entire planets were studied and stabilized. Star maps of distant systems, never seen before, were revealed. Humans were no longer small, untested beings. They were explorers, teachers, and guardians. They had inherited the wisdom and technology of the first ones, and with it, the potential to shape the galaxy responsibly. Evelyn looked out across the desert one last time, feeling the resonance of the machine beneath her feet. The sands of Zathra had witnessed the awakening of something ancient, something powerful, something that had chosen humanity as its voice. The galaxy had learned a lesson that no empire would forget. Strength, code, and power alone cannot command the impossible. Only understanding, patience, and courage can awaken what was meant to be guided by humans. A new dawn as the twin moons set, and the first light of Zathra's sun touched the desert sands. The machine's full glow lit up the horizon. Symbols of light stretched into the sky, visible for thousands of kilometers. A message to all watching civilizations. The humans had changed the galaxy forever. They had proven that even a small young species could achieve greatness when guided by wisdom and courage. They had awakened the ancient machine, not to dominate, but to preserve, protect, and explore. And as the light spread across Zathra, the galaxy understood that humanity's legacy had just begun. For the first time in history, the ancient machine spoke, and humanity answered. The stars themselves seemed to acknowledge it. The desert world of Veyron stretched endlessly under two pale suns. Its surface was dry, cracked, and littered with broken stone that whispered of civilizations long gone. To most travelers, Veyron was nothing but an empty wasteland, a dead planet without value. But to explorers, scholars, and treasure hunters, dead worlds sometimes carried secrets that could shake the galaxy. On the edge of a canyon that cut through the planet's surface, a team of alien archaeologists had set up camp. Their shelters were simple, their tools scattered across the sands, and their eyes were locked on the strange markings that covered the canyon walls. At first glance, the markings seemed random, just the natural cracks of stone. But under careful study, they revealed symbols older than any written record known to the galaxy. Professor Veyruk, a tall insectoid scholar from the Ur species, stood at the edge of the canyon and stared down into the darkness below. His antennae twitched with unease. For weeks his team had been following fragments of data left behind in forgotten archives. Those records spoke of something hidden beneath Veyron's sands, something ancient and powerful, created before the rise of most known empires. "Do you feel it too?" asked Liran, a feathered alien with sharp golden eyes. She was from the Karun, a species known for their keen senses. Her wings folded tightly against her back as she peered into the abyss. Professor Veyruk nodded slowly. "Yes, the air hums with expectation, as if the ground itself remembers." The team descended into the canyon carrying scanners and light orbs. The deeper they went, the more unnatural the stone became. Smooth surfaces replaced jagged cliffs, and the ancient symbols grew clearer, carved with precision that no simple tools could have made. Finally, after hours of descent, they reached a vast chamber. It stretched wider than any stadium, its ceiling so high that their lights could not reach it. And at the center of the chamber stood a machine. It was enormous, taller than a city tower, built of metal that shimmered faintly under their lights. Its surface was smooth, yet lined with grooves that glowed faintly blue, pulsing like a heartbeat. The machine was silent, but there was no mistaking it. It was alive in some way, waiting, watching. The archaeologists froze in awe. They had uncovered ruins before, temples, ships, even fragments of ancient weapons, but nothing like this. This was not just a relic. It was something whole, something intact. "By the stars," whispered Liran, her feathers trembling. "This is no ruin, this is asleep." They approached carefully. Scanners were raised. Beams of energy swept across the machine's surface, but every reading came back strange. The device rejected their attempts to probe it. Energy signatures spiked, then vanished. Materials were analyzed, but the machine's structure defied classification. It was not made of any known alloy. "This is beyond our knowledge," Professor Veyruk muttered. His mandibles clicked nervously. "Older than the first stellar kingdoms. Older than the archive builders. Perhaps older than the galaxy itself." Another alien, a scaled reptilian from the Theric species, slammed his claw against a datapad in frustration. "We must open it. If we unlock its power, our names will be remembered for all time." The machine gave no response to their voices, no recognition of their presence. And yet, as they moved closer, they all felt something deep inside. A strange pressure, like standing before an unseen intelligence that measured and judged them. For days, the team worked tirelessly around the machine. They mapped every line, every symbol, every pattern etched into its surface. They attempted to activate it with pulses of energy, spoken commands, even telepathic projection. Nothing worked. The machine remained silent. One night, as the team rested in their camp near the canyon floor, Professor Veyruk sat alone by the glowing sands thinking. He had spent his entire life studying forgotten worlds, but never had he felt so powerless. This machine was beyond them, and yet it felt incomplete, like a door waiting for the right key. Liran joined him, her feathers catching the dim starlight. "It does not see us," she said softly. Professor Veyruk tilted his head. "What do you mean?" She folded her wings and looked back toward the machine. "We have shouted, scanned, and forced our way against it, but it remains silent. Perhaps it does not recognize us. Perhaps it waits for something else." The thought haunted them both. The following days only deepened their mystery. More specialists arrived, summoned from distant star systems. Engineers, scientists, and psionics all tried their methods. Some claimed the machine hummed louder when touched. Others swore it whispered faint sounds at the edge of hearing. But no one could make it respond in truth. Frustration spread. The Theric reptilian shouted that the machine must be forced open, even if it meant cutting it apart piece by piece. Liran argued it would destroy the secret before they understood it. Professor Veyruk, meanwhile, felt growing dread. Something about the machine's silence seemed intentional, as if it chose not to answer. Then came the strangest sign of all. On the 12th day of their study, the grooves on the machine glowed brighter than before. A soft vibration shook the chamber, and for a moment the archaeologists thought it would finally awaken. But instead, the lights faded again, leaving the group stunned. "What happened?" demanded the Theric reptilian. Professor Veyruk's antennae quivered. "It heard us," he whispered. It chose to remain silent. That night, no one slept. Some of the team wanted to abandon the site, claiming the machine was cursed. Others demanded harsher methods, convinced the device held secrets that could make them rich and powerful. But Varrock could not look away. He felt as if they were standing on the edge of something vast, something history had forgotten, but which had not forgotten them. At dawn, the suns rose over the canyon walls, casting long shadows across the ancient machine. It stood as it had for countless ages, unmoved and silent, yet undeniably alive. Professor Varrock knew then that they had uncovered not just a relic, but a mystery that could change the galaxy. And though every alien in the chamber longed to be the one who solved it, deep in his heart he feared the truth. The machine was not meant for them at all. It was waiting for someone else. The discovery of the ancient machine spread like fire through the stars. Word traveled fast across the galaxy, through trade routes, science networks, and hidden political channels. Every great empire, every research council, and every warlord with ambition wanted to know the truth. What was buried beneath the sands of Veyron? What secret power slept inside the machine? At first, the archaeologists who had uncovered it tried to keep the site quiet. But it was impossible to hide something so vast, something so important. Within weeks, ships from half a dozen species descended into Veyron's skies, their engines burning trails across the desert air. They came with scholars, engineers, warriors, and leaders, each one desperate to unlock the mystery. The canyon that once held only a small camp now became a sprawling base. Metal towers rose beside the ancient walls. Floodlights turned the night into day. Dozens of camps surrounded the great machine, each belonging to a different delegation. Banners of alien nations fluttered in the dry winds, their symbols of power reflecting greed, hope, and fear. The ancient machine stood at the center of it all, silent, immense, untouchable. Its glowing lines pulsed faintly, as if alive but uninterested in the crowd gathering around it. The first attempts Professor Varrock and Liran watched helplessly as the newcomers arrived. The site was no longer theirs. It belonged to the galaxy now. The first to try were the Theric engineers. Towering reptilian creatures with thick scales and claws, they brought heavy drilling machines and plasma cutters. With growling voices, they declared that if the machine would not open, they would force it to. Varrock protested, but the Theric ignored him. Their machines clamped against the ancient metal, sparks flying as drills tore into its surface. Yet the metal did not break. The cutters sparked and hissed, their blades snapping apart as if they struck something harder than diamond. One drill burst into flame, its operators scrambling for safety. The machine's glowing lines pulsed once, brighter than before, and then returned to calm silence. The message was clear: you cannot harm me. The Theric left frustrated, their pride wounded. It mocks us, one growled, but we will find a way to break it. The voices of the mind. Next came the psionics, telepathic species who believed the machine might be guided by thought. They formed circles around it, their bodies glowing with mental energy as they reached into the machine with invisible minds. For hours, the chamber filled with humming vibrations. Some psionics cried out, their bodies trembling as if touching something far too vast to hold. Others collapsed unconscious, blood trickling from their eyes and ears. When they woke, most could only speak in broken words. It pushed us away. It is aware. It sees, but it does not answer. Their leader, a tall figure of living crystal, shook his head. This machine has will. It rejects us not because we lack strength, but because we are not what it seeks. The psionics left the canyon in silence, their pride shattered. The languages of the stars after that came, the linguists. They studied the symbols etched into the machine's body, comparing them to every known language in the archives. The symbols were beautiful, repeating in patterns that suggested both art and code. Some believed it was a mathematical key. Others thought it was a hymn, a song left by its makers. Teams of translators tried to speak to the machine in hundreds of tongues, spoken words, light signals, and even music. The canyon echoed with voices for days, but the machine remained silent, its faint glow unchanged. One young scholar declared, "It must be broken. Perhaps it is nothing but a shell, a memory of something greater." But Professor Varrock shook his head. "No, it is whole. It waits." Greed and fear as failure followed failure, tension grew in the canyon. Rival delegations argued, shouted, and sometimes even fought. Some claimed the machine must be a weapon. left behind by an ancient empire. Others feared it was a trap, a device meant to destroy any who disturbed it. Warlords and generals dreamed of turning it into a tool of conquest. Scientists longed to study it for knowledge. Entire governments sent spies and agents, each one desperate to claim the machine for their own people. Professor Veyrook watched it all with sorrow. The machine had become a prize, a treasure that nations would fight over. But to him it felt like something different. It was not a weapon, not a jewel. It was a guardian, perhaps, or a judge. The day of silence. On the 40th day since its discovery, a grand attempt was made. Every delegation gathered in the canyon. Dozens of species stood before the machine, their leaders shouting in their own voices, demanding it to wake. Energy cannons were charged, lights blazed, minds pressed against its walls. The chamber shook. The glowing grooves of the machine flared brighter than ever before, filling the canyon with blinding light. For a heartbeat, everyone thought the machine had finally chosen to reveal itself. Then darkness. Every light, every weapon, every scanner in the canyon shut down. Ships in orbit above Veyron reported their systems dead, drifting helpless in space. For 10 long minutes, the galaxy's greatest power stood powerless under the silent gaze of the machine. Then, as suddenly as it began, the lights returned. Ships restarted, tools hummed again, and life continued. The machine stood unchanged, as if it had only breathed once to remind them of its strength. Fear spread through the camps. If the machine could silence ships and weapons with a pulse of energy, what else could it do? Some argued to leave at once before it grew hostile. Others wanted to fight harder, convinced it could still be theirs. Professor Veyrook's realization. That night, Professor Veyrook stood at the edge of the canyon, staring at the giant shadow in the darkness. His team had been reduced to spectators, their discovery stolen by greater powers. Yet he felt no anger toward the machine, only curiosity and dread. Liran joined him, her feathers ruffling in the cold desert wind. "It has rejected them all," she whispered. The strong, the wise, the proud, all turned away. Veyrook's antennae twitched thoughtfully. "It is not broken. It is not blind, it waits. It tests us all and we fail. Because we are not what it seeks. Then who does it seek?" Liran asked softly. Veyrook looked at the stars above, glittering across the night sky. A strange thought entered his mind. One he dared not say aloud. Perhaps the machine was never meant for them, never meant for any of the galaxy's mighty empires. Perhaps it waited for something smaller, something overlooked, something no one expected. The camps did not know it yet, but their failures had written the first chapters of a story far greater than their ambitions. The machine had heard their voices, felt their touch, and judged their intentions. And in every case it had turned away. It would not move for the proud, the greedy, or the strong. It was waiting for a different hand. It was waiting for a human. The canyon of Veyron had become a hive of alien activity. Delegations from dozens of species still lingered, though many had grown tired, frustrated, or fearful. The ancient machine stood at the center, immense and silent, its faintly glowing lines casting long shadows across the desert floor. It had resisted every attempt at control, every command, every touch, yet the galaxy's curiosity never slept. News of the discovery had traveled faster than the fastest freighters, and now, a small human exploratory vessel arrived in orbit, quiet and unassuming compared to the massive alien fleets that already hovered above the planet. The ship was modest by galactic standards, small, sleek, and lightly armed. Its crew consisted of just 5 people, each trained in exploration, science, and diplomacy. The human ship descended slowly through the pale skies of Veyron, its engines leaving faint trails of light. Below, the alien delegations watched curiously. Few had expected humans to appear. Even fewer thought they would dare approach the machine themselves. First contact on the canyon floor, the human crew disembarked. At their head was Dr. Elena Ward, a human archaeologist who had studied ancient civilizations and long-forgotten technologies. She was tall for a human, with sharp eyes that never seemed to miss a detail. Her hair was tied back and her uniform was simple, unadorned by the medals and insignias that alien leaders valued. The alien delegations snickered quietly. To them, humans were small, weak, and insignificant, a minor race barely advanced enough to travel the stars. Some whispered that the humans had no right to be there. Others said it was merely foolish pride. Elena, however, did not notice their laughter. She walked straight toward the machine, carrying only a small portable scanner in her own hands. Her crew followed, cautious but confident. Professor Varric approached her, his insectoid body trembling slightly. "Dr. Ward, this is the machine. It has rejected every effort by the galaxy's strongest minds. It has silenced fleets and harmed the psionics. You are human. Do you truly understand what you risk?" Elena nodded calmly. "I do, and I think that is why I am here. Perhaps it is not meant for them at all." The first touch, the human team stepped closer to the machine. Elena reached out her hand, fingers hovering just above the smooth metallic surface. The glowing lines pulsed slightly, reacting to her presence. She placed her palm firmly on the machine. A sudden vibration ran through the chamber. Lights flared along the grooves, tracing patterns that had never appeared before. The air hummed, and for the first time in weeks the machine responded. Not to scans, not to words, not to weapons, but to a human touch. The alien delegates froze in shock. No one had ever seen this happen. Energy that had silenced ships and scanners now flowed around Elena, forming soft waves of light and sound. The machine's presence was undeniable. She stepped back slightly, eyes wide with wonder. It's alive," she whispered to herself. Professor Varric's mandibles clicked in amazement. "It recognizes you somehow. It has never done this before." Understanding the ancient voice, Elena raised her hands slowly, letting the machine's energy wash over her senses. A voice filled her mind, not spoken aloud but felt deep and resonant as though it came from every direction at once. "Who are you?" Her heart beat faster, but she answered silently. "I am Elena Ward, a human. I am here to understand, not to destroy." The machine pulsed, its light brightening. Symbols shifted and flowed across its surface. To Elena, the patterns were like a language of pure thought. She could feel the machine judging her intentions, testing her patience, her courage, her honesty. Many have come, all have failed. They sought power, knowledge, or glory. They could not be trusted. You are different. Elena nodded slowly. "I am not the strongest. I do not seek to conquer. I want to learn. I want to help." The machine responded with a warmth she had not expected, a gentle glow that seemed to invite her closer. Around her, the alien delegations whispered in disbelief. Some stepped back in fear. Others approached cautiously, but no one dared touch it. Only a human could command the machine, and now it had chosen one. The alien reaction. The reactions among the alien delegates were mixed. Some were furious. How could a human, a species they considered minor, gain the favor of a machine that had defied the galaxy's greatest minds? Others were curious, watching Elena with awe. "Impossible," muttered the etheric engineer. "They are weak. Their species cannot even control their own planets, let alone this thing." Professor Varric shook his head. "Strength alone does not matter here. The machine recognizes qualities we cannot measure. Perhaps creativity, perhaps honesty, perhaps courage." Some delegations began arguing. They demanded to try again, to prove that they too could command it. But the machine did not respond. Its energy remained focused on Elena. Every command from another being was ignored or deflected. For the first time, the truth became clear. The machine was not for the galaxy's strongest, the most intelligent or the most aggressive. It had chosen a human. The awakening Elena spent hours with the machine, learning its rhythm and pulse. She discovered that it could communicate not through words, but through thought and pattern recognition. She could feel the history of its creation, the intentions of its builders, and the vast potential it held. She realized that the machine had been created by an ancient race that had long vanished, a race that had left a guardian behind. It had been designed to serve only those capable of both intelligence and compassion, courage and creativity. And somehow, the builders had known that only a human could meet that standard. Around her, the alien delegates began to understand the truth. The machine was not a weapon. It was a guardian, and it had been waiting for the right species, the one that could guide it responsibly. Elena smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She had not expected power. She had not sought it, but now she had been chosen. And with the machine awake, the galaxy would never be the same. A new hope. The humans had arrived quietly, unassuming and almost by accident, but their presence had changed everything. For the first time in centuries, the ancient machine had responded. It had recognized a species the galaxy often underestimated. Professor Varuk and Liran looked at Elena with newfound respect. You have done what no one else could, Varuk said. Elena nodded. I did not do it alone. The machine chose me, and I will learn from it, not use it. That is what matters. The alien delegates, though reluctant, had no choice but to accept the truth. The machine would not serve them. It would not obey them. Only a human had its trust, and for the humans, the galaxy was about to realize something important. Sometimes, the smallest and least expected can hold the greatest power. The machine, immense and glowing, hummed softly, its pulse steady and calm. It had waited for millennia, and now it had found its guide. The future of Veyrun, and perhaps the galaxy itself, was about to begin. The canyon of Veyrun had grown quiet. The alien delegations, still present in the surrounding camps, now watched from a distance. After weeks of failure, after seeing the humans, so small, so seemingly weak, connect with the ancient machine in a way no one else could, many delegates were both awed and unsettled. The machine pulsed softly in the dim light, its glowing lines tracing intricate patterns across its immense body. Its energy radiated like a heartbeat, gentle yet unmistakably alive. And at the center of it all stood Dr. Elena Ward, her hands lightly touching the metal surface, her eyes reflecting the flowing blue light. She had spent days learning to communicate with the machine, not with words or commands, but through intention, patience, and understanding. And slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the machine had begun to respond. The first lesson, Elena closed her eyes and focused. The machine vibrated slightly beneath her palms, sending waves of energy that felt almost like thoughts. She could sense images forming, distant stars, ancient ships, and civilizations that had long disappeared. It was showing her its memories, but not in a way humans or aliens had ever seen. Instead of language, it communicated through patterns, feelings, and sequences. She saw the Builders, an extinct race of beings so advanced that even the galaxy's greatest minds could barely comprehend them. They had created the machine as a guardian, a protector of knowledge and life. They trusted only one kind of being. She felt the machine's voice whisper in her mind. Only one who could combine reason, courage, and compassion. Only one who could guide without domination. Elena realized the truth. The machine had been waiting for someone like her, a human, because humans were capable of qualities other species often overlooked: empathy, creativity, and the ability to act in unexpected ways. Demonstrating humanity. The aliens in the canyon had never seen anything like this. They watched as Elena guided the machine through simple tests, showing it that her intentions were not selfish. She used her understanding of energy and patterns to unlock tiny movements, activating panels and conduits in ways that seemed almost intuitive. The machine shifted slightly, revealing hidden compartments and mechanisms. It hummed louder as if pleased. Elena smiled, realizing that it was teaching her, but also learning about her in return. Every action she took, every decision she made was being observed. Why her? Whispered a Karun delegate to a Theric engineer. We are stronger, faster, wiser. Why does it obey her?
Perhaps, the engineer muttered. There are things we do not understand.
Perhaps it seeks something beyond strength. And indeed, the machine was teaching a lesson that no display of force, no brilliant calculation, no overwhelming intellect could convey. It was awakening in response to qualities deeper than skill or power. The machine speaks days passed, and Elena's connection with the machine grew stronger. One evening she placed her hands on its smooth surface and spoke, not aloud but in her mind, focusing on intention. I am here to learn, she thought. I am here to help. I do not wish to harm. The machine responded in kind. A voice echoed in her mind, calm, deep, and resonant. You understand. You are patient. You see the unseen. You are ready. Elena gasped softly. She felt the energy of the machine coursing through her. Panels opened along its surface, revealing glowing cores and delicate conduits. The light seemed alive, almost breathing, as if the machine itself were waking from a long slumber. Many have tried, the voice continued. All failed because they sought control. You would seek understanding. That is why you are chosen. Her heart raced, but she remained calm, focusing on the connection rather than the power. She could feel the machine's history, its purpose, and the vast potential it held. The alien witnesses from their distant positions, the alien delegations could see the machine responding to Elena, but not to anyone else. Attempts to communicate or command it failed. The Karun scientists tried to replicate her movements and gestures, but the machine ignored them. The Theric engineers fired tools and probes, but the energy waves deflected them harmlessly. Even the psionics, who had once tried to read the machine's mind, found themselves blocked. For the first time, the galaxy understood something profound. The machine's obedience was not a matter of strength, intelligence, or skill. It was a matter of choice. And it had chosen a human. Fear and respect rippled through the alien camps. Some argued that humanity must be contained, controlled, or studied. Others began to whisper that perhaps the humans could be allies instead of threats. A trial of courage. The machine was not yet fully awake. It tested Elena in subtle ways. Small panels would shift unpredictably, requiring her to think quickly and adapt. Energy flows would change direction, and she had to adjust without hesitation. Each time she succeeded, the machine pulsed with a steady glow, as if acknowledging her skill and intent. One evening, the machine presented a more difficult test. A sequence of energy patterns formed across its surface, fast and complex. Elena realized she had to synchronize her actions perfectly, predicting the machine's rhythm while maintaining her own focus. Her hands moved in careful, precise motions following the glowing lines, adjusting to the pulses. Sweat beaded on her forehead. The air seemed to vibrate with the machine's energy, and then with a sudden surge, the patterns aligned perfectly. Panels opened fully, revealing a chamber deep inside the machine. The machine hummed deeply, a sound that filled the canyon and even reached the stars. Elena had passed the trial. She had demonstrated not only skill, but calmness under pressure, understanding, and courage. A guardian. Awakened by the following morning, the machine's transformation was clear. Its energy was stable and powerful, and it had begun to extend its systems outward. Small drones, previously dormant, now floated around the chamber, responding to Elena's gestures. Control panels shifted smoothly, guided by her intentions. The voice in her mind was steady and strong. "You are ready. I will serve with you, and you will serve with care. Together we will protect, guide, and preserve. But remember, power is responsibility, not conquest." Elena nodded solemnly. "I understand. I will not misuse this." The aliens in the canyon could see it clearly. The machine, once a silent and untouchable relic, was now alive in a way no one could have imagined. And the reason was simple: humanity, in the form of one patient, courageous and thoughtful archaeologist, had awakened it. Preparing for the galaxy, Elena knew that the machine's awakening was only the beginning. Its power was vast, and the galaxy would soon realize the truth. Conflicts, rivalries, and ambitions would collide with this new reality. But she also knew that she had been given a chance that no one else had, a chance to use this force for protection, not domination. Professor Varuk and Liran watched her from a distance, still in awe. "It obeys her," Varuk said quietly. "It recognizes the qualities we cannot measure. Humanity. Maybe the galaxy's unexpected hope." Elena looked at the horizon. "We must be careful. This is not a weapon. It is a guardian, and it chose us not by strength but by understanding. We have to live up to that trust." The aliens were silent, some grudgingly respectful, some fearful, and others simply amazed. For the first time, they saw humans not as minor players, but as something extraordinary, a species capable of awakening ancient powers and guiding them wisely. The machine pulsed softly, a steady heartbeat in the desert canyon. Elena placed her hand on it again, feeling its immense energy flow through her. It was alive, aware and ready to serve, but only under her guidance, and with that the galaxy's future began to shift.